Hey friends! So we are on video number 4 in this series of what to expect when you quit your full-time job, or if you're thinking about quitting your full-time job. And really not just what to expect, but even better, we're talking about the things that nobody's telling you about what's going to happen when you quit your full-time job. So everybody who jumps into freelancing or entrepreneurship makes it sound like it's a cakewalk. They make it sound like it's the most amazing thing ever, and they're just having so much fun, and they're so free, and that's probably true, but they're probably not telling you the whole story, because there's so much more to it. It is freedom. It is all these wonderful things that they're talking about and that you see online, and especially splashed across social media. They make it look really good to become, to quit your full-time job and become a freelancer or a business owner, entrepreneur. And at the same time, it's also true that you're going to face a lot of challenges as a business owner or as a freelancer, which I also associate with being a business owner, because if you're a freelancer, you're kind of driving your own work, you're deciding what clients you work with, etc., etc. So in all essence, you have your own freelance business. So I'm just going to say business owner going forward in this video, and I think you'll know what I mean. So this week, I've covered in the past 3 weeks, I've talked about the good things that nobody's really telling you about quitting your full-time job to become a business owner. I've talked about the bad things nobody's really telling you, which are, just some of the challenges and struggles. And then I've also talked about the really ugly things that are truly challenging, that are gonna, really get you. They're the things that you just least expect, that are really kind of the deeper things that you have to face as a human being who quits a full-time job and goes into being a freelancer or entrepreneur or business owner. So this week I'm actually coming to you with my own advice, wisdom, things that I've learned along the way. I've been doing this for almost 5 years. I quit my full-time job to my cushy, let me just tell my amazing full-time job, to leap into a freelance position that then ended abruptly, unexpectedly, and left me kind of like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And I think everybody has that moment after they quit their full-time job to become a business owner, but it's a little bit different for most people, because most people don't jump into something that then goes away and then they have to figure it all out again. But that's what happened with me. I jumped into a freelance position that then didn't turn out as I expected it to, and I had to completely recalibrate and didn't really have a plan after that. So I had to figure out what I wanted to do, what kind of freelancer I wanted to be, what kind of business owner I wanted to be, and all of those things. So my situation may be a little bit different than yours if you're just considering quitting your full-time job to jump into a specific, a specific job or freelancing position or freelancing avenue. But at the same time, when you do quit your full-time job, oftentimes you do go through that little identity crisis, which is like, oh my God, what did I just do? Which I talked about in last week's video. And I will link those down below. The last 3 videos, I'll link those down below in the description. Okay, let's hop into it. So this week I actually have 5 tips for you. And the 5 tips that I have for you are very generic. They are not going to be business specific, so it doesn't matter what kind of business you're going to start. It doesn't matter if you already have a side hustle going or whatever. These tips are generic. They're going to apply across the board, or they should. So yeah, I'm just going to dive right in. So I have 5 tips for you, but then I also have a bonus at the end, so make sure you stick around for that. Okay? All right. Tip number 1 for my tips, things that I learned along the way. One of the most important things that I figured out was you can only focus on one thing at a time. You gotta do one task, you gotta do one step, one breath, whatever it is. Like, it's overwhelming at times to be a business owner. You just have stuff coming at you from every direction. You have to wear all the hats. It's really intense, which I talked about in other videos. But for this one, I'm just saying baby steps still move you forward. Baby steps are like snowflakes. They accumulate and they do add up over time. So the best thing that you can do for yourself, one of the best things that you can do for yourself, is just, when you don't know what to do, just take a step. Take a tiny step, even if it's like writing an email, not sending an email, writing an email, or, making a to-do list even can sometimes help you kind of figure out what needs to come next. So, make sure you're breaking everything that you're doing down into baby steps. And when I say baby steps, I mean like the one thing you have to do next in order to move yourself forward. And that's like, if you have to, say you have to write a newsletter and email it out, right? So the very first thing you need to do, your first baby step, is opening up your computer, turning on your computer. And I mean, that sounds crazy, probably, but you have to do that before you can do anything else on that list, or before you can get that newsletter going. You have to turn on your computer. You have to open the applications that you need to use. You have to sit down at your desk. You have to actually start typing words. You have to create an outline or whatever it is that you have to do, but break it into baby steps so that you know that you can accomplish them. Because if you write down on your to-do list, get a newsletter out by Tuesday. I mean, yeah, that's measurable and specific, but it's also a whole lot of things rolled up into one that could be very overwhelming. So if you don't want to overwhelm yourself, the easiest thing to do is break everything into baby steps, one thing at a time. Okay, number 2 is to have trust. Have some faith, okay? Have some faith in yourself. Have some faith in the universe, in God, whatever it is that you want to have faith in, just have some freaking faith. Because if you don't have faith, if you don't know that things are working out for you, if you don't trust that things are happening for a reason, or that you're supported in some way, even if it's just cosmically and you can't feel it all the time, especially if you can't feel it from the people around you because they may not understand what you're doing as a new business owner, because sometimes you may not understand what you're doing as a new business owner. You're just gonna have to have faith that things are going the way they're supposed to go, even when they don't feel good, because there are going to be times when things feel really shitty. It just happens. Like, it happens like that. Things feel really rough. You go through rough patches. You might lose friendships or relationships. You might not know what the hell you're doing. You might not know what comes next. But just have a little faith. And if you can keep even the smallest little tiny little thing of faith, then you can get yourself to that next baby step. And that is key. Even if it's just trusting yourself to know that you can get yourself to that next baby step, or that you can keep going even when things don't feel like you can keep going, or like you really don't want to. Just have a little faith, because it will get you further than pretty much anything else. You got to have the faith, and then you can actually take the actions. So, and when I say faith, I don't mean like in the religious sense necessarily. If that applies to you, then that's perfectly fine, of course. But if it doesn't, if you're not a religious person, I'm not talking about faith as a religious thing. I'm talking about faith as just trust and a knowing, a deep sense of knowing that things are working out for you. Things are working for you, happening for you, not to you. Okay, so just have some faith. Okay, so number 3 is, it kind of goes right along with that, but it's a little bit different, because it's essentially, it's not just having faith in yourself or trusting yourself or trusting your gut instinct. It's don't doubt your gut instincts, okay? Because your instincts are, some of them are like primal. Our gut instincts, our gut reactions, some of them they date all the way back before we even had thinking minds. And so your gut instincts can really push you forward. Sometimes you know things that you don't know how you know them. We all have that experience where we've just like come up with an idea, or we've known something, or we've just thought something sounded like a good idea, and we go in that direction, and it turns out it was the right thing to do. So just don't trust, or don't doubt your intuition or your gut instincts. You know more than you think you do. You really do. And if you get your thinking mind out of the way, sometimes you can move yourself forward really powerfully in ways that you probably never would have logically come up with. So just, I mean, whether it's who to hire or who to work with, or what client to go with, or what client not to work with, A lot of times your inner knowing, your gut, and I'm pointing to my stomach down here because it's where your gut instincts are a lot of the times, or that's where I feel mine anyway. So you'll know things that you may not logically know. You still have some kind of an intuition about things, and if you tune into it, it can guide you, and it can guide you really powerfully in the right direction. And you don't have to logically understand everything, because you won't always understand everything. And oftentimes needing to understand everything can get in your way and can slow you down. So go with your gut, trust it, don't doubt it. Okay. All right. So number 4, a friend of mine, let me tell you a little story. So a friend of mine and I were having drinks the other night. We were doing a happy hour, and we were talking, because we're both business owners, and we're both female solo entrepreneurs who also don't have children by chance. Well, by choice, actually, not by chance. But we were chatting about becoming a business owner, jumping from having your full-time job to being a business owner solely on your own. And we both had this deep sense of loneliness that we faced at times during our journey. And we both felt this. We both felt it in a lot of the same ways. And essentially it's like this: you're going from a full-time job where most likely you had coworkers, you probably had a boss, you might have had clients, you had people often that you were interacting with on a regular basis, or at least fairly regularly. Even if you were working remotely, you still had some FaceTime somewhere. Even if it was only online or virtual, you still were face-to-face with people in a virtual or physical reality situation scenario at some point in time. When you go to work for yourself, a lot of times, she's an artist and I'm a writer and I do all these things. But neither one of us have teams, really. I mean, I have freelancers who work with me sometimes, but that's kind of few and far between. And I also have clients, and she has clients. But the thing is, you essentially just let go of your entire network when you quit a full-time job, and you kind of go out on your own completely, and it gets lonely. So my 4th tip for you is to network. Find support wherever you can find it. And more specifically, let me be a little more specific. Find support that understands what you're going through. Because the people around you, like your family and friends, are going to want good things for you. They're going to be supportive of you, but they are not going to understand, unless they're business owners themselves, they are not going to understand everything you're going through. And even if they are also business owners, they may be a different type of business owner. Like if they're a brick and mortar store business owner and you're a virtual freelancer or copywriting agency like I have, your brick and mortar people aren't going to understand your digital people. I mean, they will. The business concepts are the same. The entrepreneurship concepts are the same. The leadership concepts are the same, but they're just different aspects to your business. So find other business owners, and then more specifically, find other business owners who are doing something similar to what you're doing, so that you can actually vent your frustrations to people or share ideas with people who get it, who understand where you're coming from, and who have valuable insight to give you, or maybe you have valuable insight to give them. You can share ideas, you can support each other, you can kind of cross-pollinate your work. I mean, you can collaborate together. There's so many things that you can do with a good network. You can share resources, you can share networks. I mean, you can cross-pollinate your audiences if you're both online. So there's just so much you can do. You can really leverage the crossover, even if you are completely different industries. If you have some similarities in your business model, you can still take advantage of that crossover and leverage that and learn from each other. And that is just one of the most important things, because it's going to help solve that entrepreneurial loneliness that you probably will face at some point if you jump from a full-time job into being a freelancer or entrepreneur. So that's number 4. Okay, number 5 is really, it kind of goes back to number 1, which was, I was talking about baby steps, taking things one thing at a time. So number 5 is to really focus, really hone in and focus your efforts, narrow down your priorities to one singular priority, because You can't have multiple priorities. That goes against the definition of the word, to be honest. You can have multiple goals. You can have multiple things that you want to accomplish, but you can only have one priority at a time, because if you have more than that, then you're probably not giving anything your full attention. And you'll figure out, well, I've figured out, let me rephrase that. Let me talk for myself, not for you. I have figured out that your focus, your priorities and what you get done follows your focus. So your focus drives everything. Whatever you're focused on is going to amplify. You amplify things with your focus. So make sure that you are focusing on the right things. And when I say the right things, I mean like the right next thing, one thing at a time, right? So focus on the next right thing. And you know what? Actually, Sunny Lenarduzzi does some great videos on this, especially when she's talking about niching. So I might link to her videos down below. She's been a great resource for me, and I think she'd be a great resource for you too. If you're watching my videos, you would definitely jive with hers. So I will link her down below, and maybe tag her in this. But that's really the thing. Just focus on the most important thing. And in your business, make sure you're niching down in order to focus on the right people at the right time, at the right place in their journey, as Sunny would say. Okay, I think that's what I have to say about my 5 tips. If you have any questions or anything, pop them down in the comments below. The bonus tip I want to give you is just, it's very simple, and I think I've said it in other videos before, but essentially it's just learn to flow with change. Be adaptable. Learn to be adaptable. Even if you don't love change, you never come to love change, you're going to need to be able to flow with it and be adaptable, because being an entrepreneur is extremely changeable. It changes from one day to the next. You've got to change the way you do things, or change the tools you use, or learn a new client's business, or learn new software or whatever. I mean, there's just constant flux when you are an entrepreneur. Things change and shift really, really fast, and you've got to stay on top of that. Trends change, platforms change, etc., etc. So it's just a constant flow with the things that are happening around you, and the things that are happening within your business, and the people that are coming and going, clients and maybe freelancers, or maybe people that you're working with. You can have some churn there. So things change. You just have to, flow with everything, and what's for you will flow to you when it's the right time. Again, that goes back to having trust, right? Having faith. And then just trust that you cannot miss what's yours. So if I've learned nothing else over all of my time of being an entrepreneur so far, it is that when things are meant for you, they will come to you. And I actually have a video talking about that too, which I might try to link up above. So anyway, that is it for this week. And I think that probably wraps up my series on what to expect when you're quitting a full-time job, and kind of the things that nobody's telling you about that process. Again, if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And otherwise, let me know if you'd like to see more entrepreneurial content. Like if you'd like to see me do more videos on being an entrepreneur, because I have a bunch of different ideas in my head, and I'm even thinking about maybe doing a little spin-off about female entrepreneurs specifically who don't have children. So let me know if that's of interest to you. I would love to know down below. If you are thinking of quitting your full-time job and you're just not sure yet, I wish you all the best of luck. Only you will know when it's the right time to quit your full-time job. Only you will know if being an entrepreneur is right for you, and sometimes you may not know that until you try it. So my advice would be, go with your gut. Try whatever is really calling to you, and if it works out, again, flow with that change. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But have faith that you will be fine no matter what. So I'm wishing you all so much love, and I'm wishing you the very best, and I will see you next week. Till then.